Hello and welcome back to Let's Travel. I have a lot of exciting news stories coming up, so please hit subscribe. Today I'm very happy and honored to talk with Terry Baccus, sovereign citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation and resident of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yes, I'm back in Tulsa. Terry is an activist, artist, and expert on the history of Tulsa, with focus on the Black and Native American history. He's the founder and producer of the soon-to-be-released documentary Greenwood Avenue Project, and he's also the owner and tour manager of Tour of Black Wall Street, really the defining tour of the history of Greenwood and the Black Wall Street Massacre. Hello, Terry. So very welcome to Let's Travel. Thank you very much for making time. I'm very excited to have you because you come highly recommended from a number of people, and I found a lot of interesting videos about you on YouTube. I also have your website, which all of that I will link, of course, here in the description so people can find you. Please tell me about your long-term history, your connection to Tulsa and surrounding area.
Well, first and foremost, like you say, I am a sovereign citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation. My family has been on what's now called Oklahoma before it was a state. Um, as growing up, I loved history, and uh, I just did a lot of research, reading, studying. What I did was I ate the fish and spit out the bones pertaining to history, and I just love history. I love people, and that's it.
You are very part of that community of Greenwood. And a year ago, in the summer of 2021, we celebrated or honored the centennial of the Black Wall Street Massacre. And that was an extremely horrific event in history for Tulsa. But there's a lot more to Greenwood. How did you get involved in this Greenwood movement? What is your relationship?
Well, like I'm from Tulsa. Uh, I went to Greenwood as a kid. Of course, by the time I grew up, integration was taking place. Urban renewal was taking place in the destruction of the rebuild of Greenwood, right? So, but I would go to Greenwood to go get my Eagle newspaper, and I fell in love with the remnants of Greenwood. And as I got older, I would hear stories and tales, and I just soaked it all in and kept it. I just retained it all, and so I just love Greenwood. And how I got involved to this day, it just basically fell in my lap, right? Um, I didn't know I was going to be doing this 20 years ago, right? So it just fell in my lap, and right now I'm one of many that have passion for Greenwood, and they give tours that know the history and tell the history of Greenwood. There's those that's more in depth than I am, right? But the passion that I have for it, I guess it kind of sets me apart from most people.
How did you start your tour company, Tour of Black Wall Street?
It started with a meeting with a guy named Jeffrey, who has a tour service himself, Tours of Tulsa. And we talked one day, and then I started working with the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce as their tour guide. And you kind of look down the road and see where things is going and how things would go. And so I just built me a web page, and I sent it off to Jeff, the guy at Tours of Tulsa, and asked him what he think about it, how he like it. And he said, "No problem. I got you." And here we are today.
And we heard about Black Wall Street a lot, of course, last year.
Right.
I had researched Tulsa when I was there with the European group in 2017. I learned about Black Wall Street then, made that part of my presentation about Tulsa in general. But there's a lot more to Greenwood. And please explain, because this was one horrible moment in history, but the community has a lot more to tell and say, and there's a lot more to it. What is Greenwood about?
Greenwood is about resiliency, right? Even from the beginning, when they was able to purchase 40 acres of land, and then start building on it and making it happen. And then the massacre happened, as you said, a mere 15 years later. But by 1925, they rebuilt it back over fully functional once again. And so it's all about resiliency, about being on one accord as a people that that didn't, that we had to build that way because Greenwood happened because we was excluded. That's why Greenwood became great, because of exclusivity, that we couldn't be a part of quote unquote society, as white society. We had to be on the outside, but because we was on the outside, we built it up from the inside ourselves, right, and made something happen. And so it was just all because of the times that we was in, segregation, Jim Crow, and first of all, it was oil money, right? And Tulsa was the oil capital of the world, so we was affluent. We had wealth, you know. There was the common man on Greenwood, of course, but there also was the business owners. There, you had your professionals, your lawyers, your doctors, but most of us worked in the service industry, and that money trickled down greatly, right? And so by it trickling down and we spend with one another, we made things happen. And that's just it. We're just a resilient people. And to this very day, the people of Tulsa are very resilient. And we pull together and we make things happen.
And after the massacre and the destruction, you mentioned Greenwood was rebuilt, and that is really not common knowledge. What happened after the massacre?
Well, what happened after the massacre, they got together and they rebuilt. But first of all, the city of Tulsa tried to get the people to use certain type of material, fireproof steel. They tried to come with new codes, but it was because of a lawyer by the name of B.C. Franklin that went to court and won in court that we don't have to use such codes or such fireproof material and different things of that nature. Because it really wasn't, at that time, wasn't fireproof material in the early 1900s, 3M wasn't in existence to learn to be, you know what I mean? So he won that in court, and they began to build. And they built, and they built, and they built, and they built. And by 1920, the very first building that came up was the Williams building by John and Lula Williams, who we all know that owned the Dreamland Theater. But from that building coming up, Greenwood flourished once again. By 1925, it was fully functional, a fully functional district, a fully functional community. And so it just rebuilt. And then after that, by times, urban renewal began in the late 50s and early 60s and really came into prominence by the late 60s and early 70s. What it did to start buying people out, eminent domain. I don't know what it was that they wanted this property so bad, right? And because of we desegregate, right? And we began to integrate. Now we ain't spending money on Greenwood anymore, right? We spending money downtown Tulsa. We spending money out in North Tulsa now, and the money is not circulating anymore in Greenwood. And those buildings and those businesses that was there, they started to decay. They started to not thrive anymore, and so it happened. The destruction of Greenwood happened because of urban renewal and a highway system come through.
And as in many cities in the US, we've had the similar evolution here in California, in LA, with the freeway construction cutting off minority communities in East LA. Same thing happened in San Diego. The construction of Interstate 5 destroyed a lot of neighborhoods in local economies. So the same thing happened in Tulsa.
Right.
And so in essence, Greenwood was destroyed several times through Black Wall Street Massacre, and then again through urban development, renewal,
Yes.
and desegregation in the 60s and 70s.
Right. The highway
Yeah.
system just, I mean, they didn't have an exit for Greenwood. You know, Greenwood was a thoroughfare. It went a mile. It was the hub of the district, you know. And so this street went a whole mile. And the funny thing is about it is, you know, Greenwood went from Archer to Pine. Really not funny, but the truth of the matter is, and just north of Pine, it wasn't until the late 50s and early 60s and through on to the 70s that blacks began to move out in North Tulsa, because at one time whites lived out there, right? So Tulsa Street is formatted in alphabetical order. You had Cincinnati, you had Detroit, you know, you had Elgin, you had Frankfort, then you had Greenwood. Then, you know, you had Hartford, you know, and you go on, Iroquois, Hartford, and you go on, right? And so going north is the same way. But as you went north to Pine, and north of Pine, it went Cincinnati, Detroit, Elgin, Frankfort. It wasn't Greenwood anymore. It was Garrison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in South Tulsa, Greenwood didn't go no farther than Archer. So they had what y'all have that's yours. You can have it, okay. But when they seen us becoming something, they wanted to destroy it. They want it, you know. But you want Greenwood now. This time you didn't want to have nothing to do with Greenwood. What is it? You know, it just don't add up, you know.
And
Just don't.
it was a center of economic power that was
Right.
disassembled, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sociological studies show that many communities are successful at keeping a dollar spent within their own community for up to almost a month.
Right.
In the African American community, at this point, it's a few hours on average. You're involved in the Greenwood Avenue Project, your upcoming documentary film, and that is speaking to that aspect of community development, empowerment, and bringing everybody to the table. Please tell me more about that project in your film.
Well, I mean, the project and the film is about Greenwood. It's about what the people did in Greenwood after the massacre, after the rebuild. There's people that's in the film that's grew up in Greenwood, that was born in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And we even have millennials that's also in the project. And so it's a story about Greenwood, a story about hope. It's just a story about the life and the love of a community that once was and that we're looking forward to be again.
Yeah. What is your hope for the future, for how Greenwood can evolve? A lot of attention has come to Greenwood, and during my recent visit, I saw that there's a lot of community investment. A lot of people from everywhere in Tulsa were really interested in Greenwood. And there's a lot of new things coming up, a community center, the Greenwood Rising History Center. Businesses are coming back to Greenwood. What is your hope? What's the status now? And what do you see happening in the next 10, 15 years?
Well, my hope is that those who are making moves in that way can uh, have a lot of input from the Black community. We know what gentrification is, and we know what it's doing, and we know what the effect that it will have on the community. And so, but there are those in the community that's working hard to laying groundwork to restore the district back to some of its past glory. And you know, we know it's not going to be restored fully to what it once was, because first of all, Oklahoma, Tulsa is not the oil capital of the world anymore, and so that money is not trickling down as it once did. But those that are working hard in the community to get projects did, to get businesses in there that which would be Black owned, and that will be we'll be able to keep the dollar within itself, you know. And so, but gentrification has come in and sort of surrounded what one block of Greenwood that's left. And so, hey, we're trying to make strides to get it back going again.
You have the tour company that you started recently,
Yes.
and Tulsa just this year has been mentioned by CNN Travel as one of the places you got to see this year. Good Morning America travel editor also recommended Tulsa as a destination this year. You see increase in visits from all over, and it's on Route 66, which is huge with Europeans. What is your tour offering? Why do people need to come and follow your tour and visit and have that experience?
Well, I mean, like you said, we got the history selling. I can't compare or compete with $30 million project, but what I have to offer is priceless. I'm taking to some destinations. Standpipe Hill was significant in during the massacre and what took place. The bombing of Mount Zion Baptist Church, that's another destination. Also, John Hope Franklin Reconciliation Park, which is a park of reconciliation. But what the significance with me and my tour is, when I take you there, there's a story that I tell you about that this once was homes and people lived here. And I know a family that once there was a family of 9. Of the 9 children, I believe 4 was born at that very spot where we standing at John Hope Franklin. They didn't go to the hospital, but they was there by midwives. So there's different stories, different tales that I can talk to you about with Greenwood, the stories that you're not going to get in the books, right? That's not written in history, but it's an oral history, and it's true. And so, like I said, it's priceless. I mean, even I take it to places on Greenwood that there's nothing there no more, but that very spot, I can tell you and show you what actually took place, and I can bring it to life to you in the way of storytelling. So just come, once again, tour of blackwallstreet.com and make your reservations.
How long does the tour take?
Well, actually the tour could take up to an hour and a half to 2 hours. So once I give a tour of 3 hours, the reason is because like I know the story, right? So if you want to, the tour is catered to you. If you want to have a good tour, you got to be a good tourist, right? You got to want to know. You got to ask questions. You got to bring it out of me, right? So I feed off your energy, and so it's catered to you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yes, that's what I always say. A tour comes alive because you are part of this community and history. Your family was there, your ancestors were there when it all happened, and your family experienced the rebuilding. You're part of that whole history. However, as a tourist, as a visitor, your interest, your curiosity is really needed, because if you're not participating, you're not going to have a good experience no matter where you are or what you do. Talking about participation, how can tourists and visitors support Black-owned and minority-owned business in Tulsa, especially Greenwood? What is there for you to enjoy?
Well, when they come, just spend with what retail market is there. We have Black Wall Street teas and souvenirs. We have Wonder J's Next Generation Restaurant, and I have noticed a lot of people really frequent the restaurant because they want to be a part of the culture. And the fastest way to be a part of the culture with less friction is food, right? And so they can eat and enjoy conversation. And and there's a barbershop where you can go and get your hair did and cut if that's what you're looking forward to. But the most that I see they taking is Wanda J's Next Generation restaurant, which have some great cuisine, American food cuisine.
And it's always in a restaurant that conversations happen and relationships are built. So,
true.
Yeah. And I noticed while I was in Tulsa that people take their time, that restaurant owners and people who work there are happy to welcome people and talk with visitors and tell them about Tulsa, which is not
Right.
always the case in the huge cities in America. Everybody's in a rush. It's all fast, fast, fast. In
Right.
Tulsa, it's a much more leisurely experience. I really enjoy that a lot.
Right. And I mean, and if you wanted to, support Black, there's Oklahoma style barbecue, which is outside of Black Wall Street, outside of Greenwood, but their roots are from Greenwood. There's the hamburger on 46th Street North, which their roots are from Greenwood, but they're not, because of what took place, they're not on Greenwood anymore. I mean, there's Sweet Lisa's, there's Max Wing Shop. I'm talking about food. There's clothing stores in North Tulsa, but they're not on Greenwood anymore, and they're not centrally located. That what made Greenwood what it was, that all the businesses were centrally located on one street, 1 mile. And so you spent dollars with this gentleman, then you went over and spent dollars at this store, and that dollar never left. It stayed in the community, right? And so now, with everything being spread out, the dollar have a chance to go somewhere different before it get to Oklahoma style barbecue. And Oklahoma style barbecue, take that dollar, want to go, but it can go somewhere else because it's, so it's just what it is, and so we have to, figure out a way to bring it all back together again, and we can just get centrally located on one street. But, what they're doing, though, corporately, that's what's happening in the corporate industry now with the new way of malls or strip malls they have now. The money is changing hands in the corporate world more than it is in the moms and pop stores and people, the beginning of, making things happen for yourself is being a business, an entrepreneur in retail.
And we hope to change that again, to bring it back to the communities. And I think younger visitors, young travelers are really interested in that and participating in a community and having an authentic experience, not another chain restaurant, which will be the same East Coast to West Coast, no matter where you go. And having a local experience is a lot more enriching to a visitor as well, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
What's the best way for people who want to do your tour to contact you?
Tour of BlackWallStreet.com. Tour of BlackWallStreet.com. One word. Tour of BlackWallStreet.com. You can go in, fill out the information that's there, leave your telephone number, leave your email address, leaving a note what type of how many people's in your tour with you, and so I get right back. I try to get back fastest, but as soon as I get that notification, I'm on it, because I want the people to know that they that they're welcome, right? And so that's it.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see you in person. Next time I'm in Tulsa, I'll call you up.
Great.
And I'm very grateful for your conversation. I can't wait to put it on the podcast, and I'll of course send you all the links. And everybody who's listening or viewing, all the links to Terry, his film, and his tour is down here in the description. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
See you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.